Bonjour and welcome to day 5 of my third week of the 21-day program, and this week is about harmonizing our homes, our apartments, the places we live in. The smell is the subject, the sense we are going to focus on today, and I must say it is probably my most favorite. I always had something with the smell, and as an anecdote, when I used to be 7 or 10, and I remember we were living in a house with my parents and they entertained a lot. Whenever they had dinner parties in the evening, I would come down and say good night to the guests and just kiss them good night. And then the next morning, I would go down around the dining table, and just by smelling the napkins, I used to be able to tell my parents which guest was sitting where around the table. So, as you can understand, the smell of a place now it's really important for me. It always has, the smell has always been very important, and it still is. I pay a lot of attention to the smell, and it can either be a real turn off or it can be a turn on, actually. But I'm not the only one. And another story I like to say is the story of one of my friends who works in real estate. And his job is to commercialize newly constructed properties. So usually these buildings are quite cold because they are sold just as shell and core, and they are not really finished. There is no plants, the landscaping has not been done, and it's a bit difficult sometimes for people to project themselves into living into this space. And one of the tricks he told me was that he used to bake a cake or buy a cake and then put it in the oven, turn on the oven, so that then the smell of the hot warm cake would just spread everywhere in the place, and when people walked into this house or this apartment, they would feel so comfortable, they would feel at home, they would feel cozy. And his belief was that it really helped selling the property. I don't know if it's true, if it's not true, but this is what my friend has always told me. So the smell is actually a very powerful sense. And I think it is, why is it so important? Because it's really the identity, if you think about it, is the identity of an individual. I mean, the animals can recognize us to our smell, but it's also the identity of a house. Some houses, some buildings do have their own smell. Like I think about, particularly if you go to old buildings like we have in Europe that are 100 or maybe 200 years old, sometimes these buildings, these houses, they have their own smell, and it's the smell of the stone themselves. And whenever or if it's a house also, like I remember these vacation houses, and you leave your stuff in a cabinet or in a room in these houses, and when you take them out or you come back the next year, you take your belongings, and everything smells of the house's smell. And sometimes some houses just don't have a specific smell, or they smell like the smell of the owner. But it is very important to notice what is happening, what is going on in your place. So does your place have its own smell, its own strong identity, or did it just borrow your smell? In my house, as I was saying, I'm a bit maybe obsessive with smell, and I know that I do have different smells, both for different times of the day, but also for the different rooms in the house. So in the entrance of the house, for instance, in order to welcome guests, my entrance has a perfume that I do not spray in the other rooms. So there is actually it is based on oud and rose wood. It's a very oriental perfume, a very oriental scent that I spray. It's pretty strong, so I don't spray it always. I spray it when I have visitors, when I have some business meetings in my home, which is also my office, or when I want to cover a smell that is coming from the kitchen as well. In the living room, I have a friend who gifted me a very big, very large scented candle. The amazing thing about scented candles, particularly if they are of good quality, is that even when you do not burn them, they keep on emanating the scent, and they smell very nice, and it just freshens up the atmosphere without having to burn them. And I know I have 2 or 3 pigs that I always go back to because I'm used to these scents, and they make me feel very relaxed. And then I like to light them on in the evening, because then it's not only the scent but also the light that it makes that is very warm. But if you don't want to spend too much money, it's also possible to make your own scented candle. And my friend Charlotte, she has a fantastic recipe that we will share in the workbook, and she actually made these beautiful homemade scented candles. And of course it is fun. If you have children, it's fun to do it with your children, and it's also much cheaper than buying expensive candles in the market. In the bedrooms, I always use, so this is when I have some different perfumes for different times of the day. And in the bedrooms, particularly when I go to bed at night, I always spray some lavender spray on my pillow, and I also do that in my children's bedroom, because it's very relaxing, and it became a ritual, so that we know that when we spray the lavender spray in the room, which is based on aromatic oils, then it immediately switches or triggers something in the brain that this is the time to go to sleep. And everybody knows when it starts smelling of lavender, which you can also use in the evening bath, in the drops as drops in the water. This means that it is the time to relax. The kitchen also is something quite important. So I personally don't like open kitchens, because I like to be able to cook in my kitchen and to keep the smell separate. But a lot of people do have open kitchens, and also sometimes it is not easy to isolate the smell of the kitchen from the other rooms. So what I do is I actually have a kitchen with a window. So I open the window, and I have an exhauster also to remove the smells. But there are things that I do not cook in my house, or I try not to cook in my house, because otherwise the smell is very bad. And I know that it's just personal. Not everybody has to do that, but I know that I do not like, for instance, to have the smell of cooked meat. It stays on forever. Or if you make haddock fish also, this smoked fish, it can stay for 2 or 3 years. And I don't like that. So these are things that I try not to do in my house, because I'm so sensitive to smell. And of course, after that, you always can play on your the scents in your house by adding flowers, opening the windows, particularly when it rains. It just the smells come from outside. And also one of the last things that I like is the smell of tobacco, which is very weird, I know, but I do like the smell of tobacco, and particularly the smell of cigars. So does your house have its own smell, its own scent? And the thing I would like you to do for your homework today, apart from noticing your house scents and also the different scents that are linked to your everyday routine, like your morning routine, or maybe the daytime routine, the guest time routine, and the bedtime routine, is going back also to your childhood memories. Because I find it very powerful that when we look at our childhood memories, there are some smells that maybe we forgot. It can be very little things, such as, for me, I know I love the smell of the almond soap, because this is the soap that my grandmother used to have in the guest bathroom in her house, or the camphor tablets that she used to have in her closet, so that she didn't have moth holes in her jumpers. So but these smells now, I really love them, and they make me feel good. So maybe there are small things, small details that you totally forgot about. We call it in French la Madeleine de Proust, and you want to think about these smells and go back to your childhood memories and start to think about that. And maybe you want to make a list and try to see if you can just bring them back in your everyday life. It is something very often, it is something very subtle. You don't have to spend so much money on it, but it will have a fantastic feel-good effect. So enjoy your task for today and going back into your memories, and I will see you tomorrow for the integration day. Bye. I want you to think about that. Or did it borrow your smell? Did you start noticing